Good evening and welcome to Perspectives, our weekly program dedicated to exploring today's most pressing issues. Tonight we delve into a topic of increasing concern for parents, educators, and young people themselves. Is social media causing teenage anxiety and depression? It's a question that resonates deeply in our digitally interconnected world, where platforms that promise connection sometimes seem to deliver distress. Joining us to unpack this complex issue are three distinguished guests. Sarah Chen, a dedicated high school counselor who sees the frontline effects and argues that social media is a significant contributor to teenage mental health struggles. David Miller, a technology ethicist who believes that while risks exist, social media is a tool whose impact is shaped by use and offers many benefits. And Dr. Ben Carter, a child psychologist who will provide his expert insights based on current research. We'll begin with opening statements, followed by expert commentary, a robust discussion, and finally, closing arguments. Our aim is to foster a comprehensive understanding.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. The question we're addressing tonight is not merely academic, it's a daily reality I witness in my work with teenagers. I firmly contend that the pervasive influence of social media is a primary driver of the escalating rates of anxiety and depression among our youth. Teenagers are constantly bombarded with curated, often unrealistic, portrayals of life, leading to relentless social comparison. This highlight reel culture breeds feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem, as their own lives rarely match up to the polished personas they see online. Furthermore, cyberbullying has become a devastatingly common experience. Unlike traditional bullying, it follows them home, into their bedrooms, offering no escape. The psychological toll of relentless online harassment, often anonymous, can be catastrophic, leading to severe anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation. Then there's the pervasive fear of missing out, or FOMO. This anxiety, fueled by seeing peers constantly engaged in seemingly exciting activities, compels teens to stay connected 24/7. This, in turn, significantly disrupts sleep patterns. We know that inadequate sleep is directly linked to mood disorders, creating a vicious cycle. The algorithmic nature of these platforms is designed to maximize engagement, often at the expense of well-being, through constant notifications and an endless scroll. While other factors certainly contribute to teenage mental health, the unique, immersive, and often unmoderated environment of social media presents a potent and ubiquitous stressor unlike any previous generation has faced. It is shaping their social interactions, their self-perception, and unfortunately, their mental health in profoundly negative ways.
Dr. Hayes, Sarah, thank you for the opportunity to discuss this crucial topic. While I acknowledge the concerns raised, I believe it's an oversimplification to label social media as the primary cause of teenage anxiety and depression. Social media, at its core, is a tool. Like any tool, its impact, positive or negative, is largely determined by how it's wielded, not by an inherent malevolence in the technology itself. We must not overlook the significant benefits these platforms offer. For many teenagers, especially those who feel isolated or different, social media provides vital avenues for connection and community. They find peers with shared interests, access support groups, and engage with diverse perspectives they might not encounter in their immediate physical environment. Mental health is incredibly complex, influenced by a confluence of factors including genetics, family dynamics, school pressures, and socioeconomic conditions. Attributing rises in anxiety primarily to social media ignores this broader context. Moreover, many young people use social media for profoundly positive purposes, for activism, to raise awareness about social issues, for creative expression, and for collaborative learning. The focus, therefore, should not be on demonizing these platforms, but on fostering digital literacy and critical thinking skills from a young age. Parental guidance, open conversations about online behavior, and a collaborative effort with tech companies to design safer, more ethical platforms are key. We need to empower teenagers to navigate the digital world responsibly, to understand the algorithms at play, and to cultivate a healthy relationship with technology. Blaming social media as the sole villain prevents us from addressing the multifaceted nature of teenage mental health, and from harnessing the potential good these technologies can offer when used wisely.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Both Sarah and David have raised important points, reflecting the complexity of this issue from their respective viewpoints. From a psychological research perspective, the relationship between social media use and teenage mental health is nuanced, and we must be cautious about drawing overly simplistic causal links. Several large-scale studies have indeed found correlations between high levels of social media engagement, particularly passive consumption like scrolling through feeds, and increased reports of anxiety, depression, and lower life satisfaction among adolescents. However, correlation does not equal causation. It's a critical distinction. Are teens who are already struggling with anxiety or depression more likely to turn to social media for escape or validation? Or does excessive use actively trigger these conditions? The research suggests it can be a bit of both, creating a potentially problematic feedback loop for vulnerable individuals. We also need to consider the developmental stage of teenagers. The adolescent brain is highly sensitive to social rewards and peer validation. Social media platforms, with their systems of likes, comments, and shares, tap directly into these neural pathways. This can make teenagers particularly susceptible to the pressures of online social comparison and the fear of negative evaluation. Furthermore, the design of many platforms incorporates principles of behavioral psychology to maximize engagement, which can, for some, lead to compulsive or addictive patterns of use, displacing time for sleep, exercise, and face-to-face interactions, all crucial for mental well-being. It's also worth noting that the type of engagement matters. Active participation, such as creating content or meaningfully interacting with close friends, may have different outcomes than passively consuming an endless stream of idealized images from strangers. Ultimately, a multifaceted approach is essential. This involves equipping teens with coping mechanisms, promoting media literacy, encouraging parental involvement, and urging tech companies to prioritize user well-being in their design and algorithmic choices. It's not about banning social media, but about fostering a healthier digital ecosystem for young people.
Thank you, Dr. Carter, for that comprehensive overview. We have a rich tapestry of viewpoints here. Sarah, David argues strongly for digital literacy and responsible use. Given the pressures you see daily, how effective can education truly be against powerful algorithms specifically designed to keep teens engaged? A point Dr. Carter also touched upon.
That's a critical question, Dr. Hayes. While digital literacy is undoubtedly important, and we strive to impart these skills in schools, it often feels like sending young people into a complex battle with insufficient armor. These platforms are engineered by teams of behavioral scientists and designers to be as engaging, even addictive as possible. Their primary goal is often extended use, not necessarily user well-being. To expect teenagers, whose prefrontal cortex and impulse control are still developing, to consistently resist these sophisticated designs through willpower alone is, frankly, an unrealistic expectation for many. I've counseled countless students who understand that excessive social media use can be detrimental, yet they describe an almost compulsive urge to check their feeds, fearing they'll miss out or be excluded. The psychological pull is immense. Therefore, while education is a piece of the puzzle, it cannot be the sole solution. We urgently need systemic changes from the tech companies themselves, focusing on ethical design and prioritizing the mental health of their young users over engagement metrics.
David, a follow-up for you. Dr. Carter highlighted the particular vulnerability of the teenage brain to social validation and peer pressure, which social media platforms can significantly amplify. Considering this heightened sensitivity during adolescence, Are we perhaps asking too much of teenagers to navigate these complex digital environments responsibly without much stronger built-in safeguards and more proactive interventions from the platforms themselves?
That's a fair and important challenge, Dr. Hayes. I certainly agree that platform design and corporate responsibility are vital components of any comprehensive solution. My advocacy for digital literacy isn't intended to suggest that teenagers bear the sole burden of responsibility. Stronger safeguards are indeed necessary. This could include more robust and effective age verification processes, greater transparency regarding algorithmic content curation, and more intuitive, user-friendly tools that allow young users and their parents more granular control over their online experience and data privacy. However, we also shouldn't underestimate the capacity of young people to develop critical thinking skills when they are properly educated and supported within a trusting environment. Empowerment is key. This includes teaching them to critically evaluate the content they consume, to understand the persuasive psychological techniques being employed by platforms, and to cultivate self-regulation strategies for managing their time and emotional responses online. Overly restrictive measures, if not carefully considered, might inadvertently stifle the positive aspects we've discussed: the community building, the creative expression, the access to support networks. It's about finding a sustainable balance between protection and empowerment.
If I may interject, David, your points about empowerment are well taken in an ideal scenario. However, many, quote, digital wellness features currently offered by platforms often feel like superficial gestures rather than fundamental shifts in their core business model, which inherently profits from maximizing user engagement time. The anxiety and depression I witness aren't solely about the quantity of time spent online, but profoundly about the quality of interactions and the nature of the content consumed. A student might spend only an hour on a platform but encounter something that triggers intense feelings of inadequacy, witness brutal cyberbullying, or be exposed to harmful ideologies, deeply affecting their mental state for days or weeks.
I understand that perspective, Sarah, and those individual experiences of harm are valid and deeply concerning. This is precisely why robust, responsive, and transparent reporting mechanisms for harmful content and bullying are essential, an area where many platforms still need significant improvement. But it also underscores the necessity of resilience building in young people, equipping them with the emotional and cognitive tools to process and cope with negative online experiences. This must occur in parallel with concerted efforts to make the online environment itself safer and more accountable. It truly requires a multi-pronged approach, not an either-or.
Dr. Carter, this has been a very insightful discussion. Based on everything we've heard, the concerns about platform design, the arguments for digital literacy, and the inherent vulnerabilities of adolescence, what is one key takeaway or actionable piece of advice you would give to parents who are understandably concerned about their teenagers' social media use and its impact on their mental well-being?
That's an excellent and practical question, Dr. Hayes. If I had to offer one key piece of advice to parents, it would be to prioritize open, non-judgmental communication with their teenagers about their online lives. This means more than just setting time limits. It's about understanding how they are using social media, who they are interacting with, and how it makes them feel. Collaboratively establish reasonable boundaries around tech use. Encourage a balance with offline activities and hobbies that foster genuine connection and self-esteem. And crucially, model healthy technology habits themselves. Creating a home environment where teens feel safe to share their online experiences, both good and bad, without fear of immediate punishment or confiscation, is paramount to navigating these challenges together.
Tonight, we've explored the deep complexities of social media's impact on our teenagers. While the digital world offers connections, the shadow it casts on their mental health is undeniable and growing. From my perspective on the front lines, I see the daily erosion of self-esteem, the heightened anxiety from constant comparison, and the devastating effects of cyberbullying, all amplified by these pervasive platforms. The argument that it's solely about responsible use often overlooks the sophisticated manipulative design intentionally built into these platforms to maximize engagement, often at a significant psychological cost to our most vulnerable. We need more than just awareness, we need proactive, systemic change. This includes greater accountability from tech companies, more robust educational programs that go beyond simple literacy to address emotional impact, and stronger support systems for young people. Protecting the mental well-being of our youth is not just a parental or educational responsibility, it is a societal imperative. We must act decisively to mitigate these risks before more young lives are overshadowed by anxiety and depression, fueled by their online experiences.
Thank you. This discussion has underscored that there are no easy answers when it comes to social media and teenage well-being. However, I must reiterate that social media is a multifaceted tool, not an inherent evil to be unilaterally condemned. While the risks highlighted are genuine and require serious attention, we must also acknowledge the substantial benefits: connection for the isolated, platforms for expression, and access to diverse information and communities. A balanced approach is essential. This involves fostering critical thinking and digital resilience in young people, encouraging active and mindful engagement rather than passive consumption, and promoting open dialogue within families and schools. Simultaneously, we must continue to advocate for more ethical design and greater transparency from technology developers, pushing for features that genuinely support user well-being rather than solely prioritizing engagement metrics. Our goal should be to empower teenagers to navigate the digital landscape safely and effectively, harnessing its potential for good, rather than attempting to shield them from it entirely. Collaborative solutions involving all stakeholders are the path forward, not outright condemnation or fear.
And with that, we conclude a truly engaging and thought-provoking discussion. My sincere thanks to Sarah Chen, David Miller, and Dr. Ben Carter for sharing their valuable perspectives on whether social media is causing teenage anxiety and depression. We've heard compelling arguments about the pressures and psychological impacts, countered by calls for digital literacy and a recognition of social media's potential benefits, all framed by expert insights into the complexities of adolescent development and technology. It's clear that this is an evolving conversation, one that requires ongoing attention from parents, educators, policymakers, and the technology industry itself. The challenge remains: how do we cultivate a digital environment that supports, rather than undermines, the mental health of our young people? Thank you for joining us on Perspectives.